I'm going to be going over the new Parallax camera component. I did just make some updates to support positive values so that you can go from -1 to 1. Positive values do seem to make more sense. It was looking a little weird with negative values, but it's looking good now. But I'll left the negative values in there just in case. So let me go over all the components that have been added script-wise, and we'll just and then we'll check out the demo. So the game camera, which is our prefab, already has been updated to support these. And here you have your Parallax background script. The only values you have to mess with here are the Parallax factor values, as I was just talking about, and then the Parallax layers you can ignore. I'll probably make this private later. Again, this is meant to follow all our sorting layers. So from background to foreground, our sky, parallax, our midground will also cover midground 2 sorting layer. The foreground will cover as well as the foreground 2 parallax factor, and then you have your camera front. The other sorting layers that are kind of ignored are, default, background, floating objects, and player. These objects are considered to be ignored. So by default, new objects will be put on the default sorting layer. Of course, these all affect the layering of the Z depth, so we should be setting all our layering appropriately. And this is why this updates to the scripts work so well. And again, this is thanks to a buddy of mine, CodeRad, who provided the scripts. And so basically, let me go over all these scripts real quick. Parallax background is going to let me just take a quick look at it actually, so I make sure I explain all correctly. The parallax background is what we're gonna take in those factors. It makes sure the camera has an ability to actually move objects, and then we set those layers. So you'll have to stop and start the game every time because we set the layers on start, because we have to go get all the objects in the game. We can change this later on if needed, but I definitely don't want to be getting all the game objects all the time. Just get it one time, because that can be very taxing on the engine. So we just get all the game objects, and again, we ignore default, background, player, and floating object, and we only set the layer if it's anything else. And we set those parallax factors for this new object called parallax layer, which is a new script. We add that script to those game objects, and we set their parallax factor. Okay, and then on updates, we move those layers. So when the camera moves, these game objects, these parallax layer game objects, move as well, based on the settings that we have given them. They basically kind of move with the camera in a sense. So if the camera's moving forward, it moves forward in a positive direction, negative in a negative direction. The parallax camera, this doesn't really do much other than its whole purpose is to track the camera's position and update movement. So delta is old position minus the new position, and we move that the camera's position on delta. And when we do on camera translate, basically it comes back to this move and moves all our layers based on that delta. That's a little bit of a like overview of what it does. It's definitely oversimplified there, but nothing anyone really needs to know. It just works. And the last script is the parallax layer. Again, this is the parallax factor that we're attributing to each component, or each game object that we want to move in the sorting layers. And it just moves based on the delta times the parallax factor. Okay. So it moves with the camera, essentially, since we have positive values. So if anyone has any questions about it, let me know. But again, so the parallax background will be situated on the game camera. And the most important about this system is that we gather all game objects at start of the game, and we give them, you'll see that they don't have the parallax layer here, script. We will assign them the parallax layer and do that. The main camera already has the parallax camera. Again, this is our prefab. No changes are needed. So I'm going to go play the demo. You'll see that all these sky objects will get populated with a parallax layer, sky midground. If we go back to our game camera, you'll see that they should all match all these values. So any camera front should be set to, for some reason camera front's missing. I think I may have messed it up, but we'll ignore that right now. I think there's a typo in that. I forgot to fix that. It'll be fixed later. So let's check this out. So we can see as the foreground kind of moves with us, since the camera is being missed, these foreground, midground, and sky objects move at their own pace. Looks like the sky objects kind of, stay where they are, which is great. And then the midground slowly moves, and then the foreground moves a little bit faster, right? Kind of see that overlap there as we actually traverse. So really, the camera front objects are going to be like objects we expect to be moving past quite easily. So, and so the way we want all this to work, again, it should be, it should work naturally. So if we have sky objects, they should be put in the sky, which basically is the background layer. Maybe I'll add the background back in to the script, but that can be discussed later. The midground, anything in the midground or midground 2 should be, it's going to be treated as the midground parallax. So this should work. And when I say naturally, it's that when we create or add in a new sprite, it's going to have a sprite renderer, and then we're going to give it we're going to put on a sorting layer. Again, if you don't know what these are, the sorting layers are just our Z depths, right? So background to foreground. Okay, camera front is always going to be in front of the player. So, and this is how everything should be stacked on top of each other. So again, this is why I updated the script. I felt that the old script wasn't, we shouldn't be setting sprites individually. The script should grab our sorting layer, because everything's, again, Z depth, this is a 2D game. It should work as expected, and we don't have to do anything else other than set what each sorting layer should be. Again, if we want to make these specific, we can. That's not a problem. Right now, the game, the parallax background, this is what would actually do it. I found this to be the easiest and, I guess, most apparent way to do this. But we can add midground 2, foreground 2, we can add player, we can add floating objects, we can add all the sorting layers in here and give it a value if we need. That's not really a problem. So here you can see the parallax layers for each object, and it's just gathering all game objects. The order doesn't really matter, but I might make that private. I think that's it. Hopefully I explained everything. If not, just message me. And again, you don't have to add any scripts to this. It does everything itself, because the game camera prefab has already been updated. All you need to do is add a new game object. We'll say 2D object sprite, capsule. We're going to move this to foreground. You can see how that layering happens there. Move this like right there. So now that this is on foreground, all we have to do is just hit play, and it's gonna work on the. It's gonna go with the foreground objects here, and it is not. Let's make sure. Let's go foreground. Okay. I think there's another typo. I'll have to fix that. But I don't feel like making another video, so I will catch you all later.